Today I'm going to recreate some nails that I did about 15 years ago. So in that time, I've learned how to do much better smile lines. I think back in that time, I may have just been learning how to do the reverse application. So that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you a little bit more on how to blend your colors a little bit better. And then also when you're working with that black or a dark color right at your smile line, I'm going to show you some easier techniques with that. So let's get going. I'm going to start with one nail here, and I've already got this nail prepped. I've pushed back the cuticles, removed the shine, cleansed the nail with swipe, and I've got my 2 coats of protein bond on there. So we're going to get into, to start with, our smile line, and we're going to do that reverse application. On these nails, I'm going to use Speed Bubblegum, but I'm going to start by picking up a good sized pearl, and I'm going to hold it for just a couple of seconds before I place it onto the nail, and then I'm going to go right onto the nail. I'm going to press out my cuticle area, and you can see that as I'm working in that cuticle area, I'm already starting to angle that finger down so that it's going to start to flow. Now again, I'm going to get that straight down, and I'm going to kind of watch this as it's flowing. Once it gets to where I want it, I'm going to lift up on the nail, and you can already see that smile line has started to come into place. I'm just going to use the edge of my brush and just kind of tuck that smile line in a little bit to really get that nice and crisp. Okay, and again, you guys, you can already start to see the difference between my new and improved nail versus my others. On the original nails, those were a much more shallow smile line. On this one, I'm going to do a little bit more of an elongated smile line, because when I do stiletto nails or longer nails like that, I want to make sure that they're balanced. So I want to make sure that that nail bed is about the same length or proportionate to that free edge. In those original nails, that nail bed area, that looked way too short for the length of those nails. Okay, so we're gonna let this set up a little bit. I think I've got my smile line right about where I want it. I'm gonna actually take a look at it from the end, and I'll show you guys this in just a second, but I wanna make sure that my product is nice and even all the way across, and I'm not rounding out the sides. You'll notice as I press on the top, I don't pivot my brush to round that out. That's another trick to getting that really good crisp smile line. If you come in and you round out, it's something that we kind of feel inclined to do because we're trying to build in that structure and we're trying to build in that nice curved shape. But what happens with our smile line is if you start to round out those edges, you're not going to leave enough space to put your color up to that smile line and get a crisp smile line. So if you start to round that out and then you put your color up to it, you're going to end up filing off your color and you're going to end up with little missing sides. Okay, so make sure that you're not trying to round out those edges, that you're just trying to basically create a wall of product all the way around the sides. Okay, so we've waited for a few minutes and our pink is nice and set. It is dry. So I'm going to just come in and I'm going to crisp up that smile line. Now it's pretty okay as it is, but just to really make sure to get that really good crisp smile, I'm going to take a brand new 150 grit file, and I have not taken the sharp edges of this off yet. We want to have that nice sharp edge so that we can really get that edge crisp, okay? I'm going to make sure that I keep my file straight up and down. I'm not angling it. So all I want to be able to see is that blue line down the center of the file. If I start to angle it like this, it's actually going to cut down into that nail, and we don't want that. So again, keeping that straight up and down, I'm just going to come through and clean up that smile line as best as I can. Okay, and you're going to start to see, as I'm filing, that dust pattern is just going to start to collect there. And once that dust pattern looks completely straight, then I know that my smile line is where I want it. But what I want to make sure I'm also doing is I want to make sure that I'm keeping really good contact and straight contact with my file. I don't want to be doing short little choppy strokes. And at the end, I'm going to go all the way through and really do one nice clean sweep through that, because that way I know that my smile line is going to be perfectly crisp. All right, so I think I like exactly where my smile line is. We're going to go ahead and start our extension. Okay, so before we put our form on, I'm going to go through and just dust that off again. Now, here's another thing that I didn't have back a few years ago when I was doing these nails originally. is our long forms. Now, if you're doing stilettos, these forms work fantastic. I absolutely love them. And we're gonna take one of our forms, and then I'm going to pre-pinch my form before I put that on. And when I pinch my forms, I like to look at it from the side so that I can see that those two edges are coming nice and straight and even. I'm gonna pinch that together at the end. We'll open that up, and I'm gonna bring that right up underneath that nail. So I'm gonna actually come from the free edge, and I'm gonna start to pinch my form back. We're gonna bring that down, let's go right about there, okay? And then I'm gonna take and look from the side, and you can see on these forms, we've got those little red lines. That's gonna help to be your guide. You can also look at how the light is reflecting. Okay, so we're gonna build out a clear extension, and then we're gonna do our design work and encapsulate it. All right, so I'm gonna pick up a bead of my Speed Clear, and I'm gonna start by just draining out a little bit of that extra liquid, and then we're gonna put it right up to that nail that we created. I'm gonna keep it very, very thin, especially right at that connection, because I wanna make sure that I have room for my black and for my other colors that I'm gonna add in. So again, I'm gonna go right up to that nail, leaving some extra space. Now, because I have this long form on, I'm gonna kind of hold my brush a little bit farther back than I normally would, just so I'm not running into that form. Once I get my clear on, I'll show you, you can actually cut down your forms to make it a little bit easier to work on as well. So once you get it on there and you know the length that you're gonna work with, you can definitely cut that down. But again, because I didn't cut that, I'm just working and holding my brush a little bit farther back than I normally would. Okay, so I think we are good there. So again, if you feel like you want to clip off that end, just grab a scissors and just give it a quick little snip just to make it a little shorter so that way it doesn't get in your way. Okay, so while this nail is setting, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the glitters that I'm going to use today. So originally in these nails, and again, this was 15 years ago, so I'm not 100% sure what colors I used, but most likely it was some of our original glitters. So the colors that I used originally were Punk Rock, which is our blue, and Sunshine, the yellow, and Pinkie, obviously the pink. Okay? And then for today's nail, I'm gonna also add in Fame Orbit, Sunset Beach, and Ice Billet. Okay, so that's gonna really just kind of bump up the colors, give it a little bit more dimension, a little different sparkle than the originals. And I'm also gonna use a little bit of Chonky Chonk, because in the originals, I had a little bit of Mylar. I don't know, I feel like I put it in kind of in some random places, but we're gonna load up a little bit more on the Chonky Chonk today. And then for our black, I'm actually using our Slick Pour, and this is Epic Black. Okay, so I've got these all mixed, all ready for you today. Okay, so at this point, our free edges, it's started to set. It's set enough to where I can still press in a C curve, but it's gonna be okay to take the form off. So I'm gonna come back under here. This is just a painting spatula. You can use the end of your cuticle pusher, your magic wand, just something that is going to help press that product away from the form. And you're gonna be able to see it start to release from that form. But again, because there's just such a tiny little bit of product that's attached to the nail, I want to be very careful with it. And again, because it hasn't set completely, I really want to be careful. So I'm going to make sure that everything has released from that form. I'm going to pinch it away, and then I'm going to pull that down so I don't end up pulling my extension off. So because we're adding layers in, we're adding colors, we're adding Mylar, we really want to make sure that that free edge stays nice and thin. Okay, so at this point, again, you guys, I have our nail sculpted out, that extension nice and thin. So I'm gonna come in with our Epic Black from our Slick Pour collection. I'm gonna use this a little bit on the wetter side. I'm just gonna kind of drop that down at that edge and just start to blend that back. By using this a little on the wetter side, it's gonna really kind of flow back into those little corners. And then I can use just the edge of my brush to kind of feather that edge out so that I don't have that really harsh line of my black. So again, by keeping it a little on the wetter side, it's going to blend a lot easier. Now, if you do feel like maybe you were working a little on the drier side and it's not quite blending, you can always go back in, pick up just a tiny little pearl, and you can drop that down. And again, keeping that pretty wet, just kind of tap and blend that out. Okay. I'm gonna check my corners here. I've got just a little bit of that corner that I want to fill in, just a little bit more. So again, just a nice small pearl. This one I'm going to drain just a little bit because I don't want it to flow as much. And then I'm going to drop that right down in that little corner just to make sure that that gets filled in. Okay, now comes the fun part, our colors. So I'm going to pick up again some smaller, fairly wet pearls. On my original nails, I didn't really blend the colors very well. So on this one, I want to show you how you can get your product to blend a little bit more with that glitter. So again, using it on the wetter side and just kind of tapping through the edge of that pearl. So all the way around, so you can see that that's going to help it to just kind of fade out. So then we can fade another color into it. Okay, same thing with my blue. Again, I'm going to take a kind of a smaller pearl, fairly wet, so that you can see it's going to start to kind of flow. And it's going to move a little bit on you, but that's okay. That's exactly what we want. We want it to kind of flow. We want it to blend. We want it to move a little bit. But again, you guys, I'm keeping this pretty thin. Again, you can see from the side view, it's got still kind of that step down from where our pink is, so that I can still add my glitters, I can add my mylar on there, and then I can also still add my clear over the top of it to encase everything. All right, so let's blend in a little bit of our yellow. And again, kind of tapping around the edge. So you'll see when my pink and yellow come together, it's going to get a little bit more of an orangey kind of color. When my yellow and blue come together, I'm going to get a little bit more of a green tone to that. Again, I'm going to feather out that edge of it so we can blend another color in. Pick up just a little bit more pink. And you guys, if you decide you want to add here and there, it's okay to add. Again, just keeping those pearls smaller and a little on the wetter side. So that way they're going to stay nice and thin on that nail. All right, so now my product is still a little bit wet, but just to make sure, I'm going to add just a small pearl of my clear, my speed clear, and I'm going to drop that down just to kind of re-wet the surface, and then I'll pick up my mylar. And I'm just going to kind of tap my brush into the mylar and pick up a few pieces. All right, so we got our glitters on there, we got our color on there. Again, you can still see that there still is a little bit of space for me to add my clear and fill that in and encapsulate everything. I'm gonna pick up a good sized pearl of our speed clear. I'm gonna drop that down and I'm gonna blend that up to my pink. I'm just gonna kind of turn my brush backwards, brush that in, and then again, I'm gonna let gravity work with me instead of against me. So I'm gonna point that finger straight down, let that product run down the length of the nail. Once it stops flowing, I'm gonna turn my brush back around, and then I'll just start to kind of press that into place. Again, blend that back up to that pink. And again, you guys, if anything comes up over that pink, don't worry, it's gonna file out. Not a big deal. All right, so I think we've got that encased. I'm gonna just come through again and check my corners in here, make sure that I've got a little bit of product capping those areas. And just drain that one out just a little bit, because again, I don't want that to flow too much. So just capping that corner. And same thing on the other side. Again, just picking up a small pearl, drain it out, and making sure I cap those corners. All right, now at this point, I know it looks like a big old chunky monkey, but we're gonna go through, file it out, finish it, and I'll show you the final look. All right, you guys, so I filed and finished the nails, and I just wanna show you one last time the original, the before, the not so great ones, and then the redo. And there's a couple of things that I want you guys to really remember from this video. Yes, I wanted you to learn how to do this really pretty nail with the different colors and the glitters and the mylar and all that, but I also want you to remember that progress, okay? You guys, this was me 15 years ago. I thought I was doing really good at the time, and at the time, for my skills, I was doing good. But over the years of practice and watching videos and taking classes and learning, I've really been able to get my skills up to another level. So I want you guys to remember that, to keep practicing, keep learning, keep taking classes, and then also remember your social media. Back when I did these nails, I didn't have social media. I didn't have a platform to post my pictures, to post my work, to really see my progress. And I think that's an important thing with our social media these days. Yes, it's for your clients to see the work that you're doing, but it's also for you to see the progress that you've made. And sometimes we go maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a year, maybe 5 years, and we think, you know, I haven't really progressed. When you actually look back that couple of years, that 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you can see that you've really progressed and that you've really made huge advances in your career. So keep up your social media and keep learning and keep practicing. Have fun with your nails, guys.
Thank you.